everyone's got horror stories of contractors. What's the common denominator in that? Oh, they were the cheapest. So every time you pick the cheapest contractor, you seem to have problems. We're all gonna screw something. I screw things up, you screw things up, we all screw things up. If you put a good system and process in place, you get away from as much human error as possible. Your employee is gonna be happier because they're not stressed, because they're not worrying about screwing things up.
Today, we are in Hobart, Indiana with the president of Romans Roofing, Mike Armalis.
Hi, I'm Corey Getz, and today we have a very special guest. This is a friend of mine, and I can tell you, one of the hardest working people I know, one of the most friendly and caring people that I know in the roofing industry. It's the president of Romans Roofing, Michael Armalis. Mike, how you doing today?
Awesome. Well, thank you for that introduction. You're going to make me blush, but I think I am a little red from the sun array this year. But yeah, thanks a lot for the introduction.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining me today and talking with us a little bit. I said obviously we announced you as the president, but what do you do here at Romans Roofing?
What do I do here at Romans Roofing? So I've been in the industry for almost 15 years now. Have a lot of experience on the operations side, the production side. I did sales at the beginning of my career and decided that wasn't necessarily where I wanted to stay. So I really focus on the operations and production side of the business. So I oversee those departments, help oversee and coach up the sales directors on that side of the business. So really it's kind of like whatever I can do, I can jump in to help and make sure that we keep going.
Nice. And what drives you to do that kind of work here?
So this would be my third opportunity in a roofing organization. So I had my own company, Mid-America Exteriors. I had sold that to an IPO startup, Restoration Builders. Stayed there for about 3.5 years and decided I wanted to get back into something a little bit smaller, something where I had a little bit more control of the day-to-day operations and be able to have a larger impact on the success of the business. So I came over here to Romans. Now I've got a little bit of a chip on my shoulder because, like I said, I want to be able to see this through and say that myself and my team, we were able to do this and do really well and just take over Illinois and Northwest Indiana in the roofing sector.
Yeah. And how's that going so far?
So far, so good. The first year we came in, we finished at about $7 million in sales.
That's awesome.
We have a targeted goal this year of $20 million with expectations for 2025 to be a $30 million company.
That's awesome. And so how do you enjoy working with your team here?
Oh, they're awesome. Between Elijah, Sean, Angelo, Jim, they're just on a daily basis. I get to work with them. And I mean, they're really committed and really passionate about doing what's right for the customer, doing what's right for our employees, and really about making this family. We have our core values, and the big one all rolls into family. And we really are a family. I mean, you have Elijah with his brother here. Mendoza and I, we grew up together. I mean, we've been friends since high school. I mean, I was the best man at his wedding. So we really have created a family atmosphere around here.
That's awesome. You know, I've gotten to spend the day here today and got to know some of the people that you're mentioning. And, you know, I've been really impressed, just the way you guys all get together. You're all super respectful of each other. I think that's really good.
I don't need to stretch out, but yeah, it's fun. I mean, that's one of the great things about having a smaller scale business as opposed to, let's say, a corporate where you get to work with your friends and get to do have as much fun, I guess, as you want a little bit. You get to stretch your legs a little bit more like I just did. So I get to keep moving.
Take as much room as you want.
Yeah, take as much room as you want, not really have to worry about being very structured. I mean, if there's a decision that we need to make, we can make it on the fly. We have a little more autonomy. So that I think is probably another one of the big reasons I came over too, with the autonomy to make fast decisions in a corporate environment. I mean, there's so many change you have to go through. You have to go to this department, you got to go through that department. In this situation, if we need to do something and we see something, because this industry is all about change. I mean, between the insurance companies, on the retail side, the vendors, always raising their prices, you've got to be able to tilt and change any chance you get. So in a corporate environment, you have so many different people or approvals you have to go through. When we see something, we can jump on it right away and just go. I mean, so it is helpful, and I do believe that's going to help us succeed at this point, because we're able to pivot. Something happens with the insurance companies. They say, or they stop paying for damage or whatever. But if we figure out a way to get them to pay for it, we pivot. And we're doing some small things like that right now, and we're seeing better results because of it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, the roofing industry, you know, is a very unique industry. What inspires you to work in the roofing industry alone?
So that's funny that you bring that up, because I did a roofing job in college. So I was about 20 years old. Worked at a company called M. Walter Roofing. They were around over 100 years, retail roofing, did sales for them for a summer. Didn't really like what they did and everything, their whole process and everything. So I swore off roofing 30 years ago and said, I'll never get into this again. So here I am.
You lost a bet. Oh.
No. So here I am in 2008. I'm working at DeVry University at the campus over by Wrigley Field, and wasn't really happy with my boss and just didn't like the environment anymore. So a couple of buddies of mine, one owned a company and the other one was a sales guy that I had worked with at another company, and saw his success. So decided to go out and give it a try a couple Saturdays during the summer while I was still working at DeVry. And it was, typical industry, just go out there, knock some doors and figure it out as you go. Yeah. So tried it out, didn't really like it. I'm like, man, I don't know if I really want to do this again. But one day my boss just pissed me off, and I just sat there and wrote my 2-week resignation, and bam, middle of October 2008, I was out knocking doors trying to figure this all out again. And what's funny too is that, so leaving October or middle of October, by Halloween, there was already 6 inches of snow on the roofs. I didn't meet with my first adjuster till the following March. Oh, so wow. It was an interesting winter, to say the least, but it took me a while to get my first adjustment going. And and I don't know, I just saw this industry, saw how you can help people and do good things for people. So I really just decided to stick with it and search it out and really dig into the roofing side, do a lot of education, really learn roofing, like meeting with you, learning about Hardie siding. I'm VSI certified, so I learned about vinyl siding. I just really wanted to dig in and learn about everything. And once you dig into this in the construction side, whether it be roofing, siding, there's so much to learn, and you can be like a roofing nerd or a siding nerd and have a good time with it.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, I know what you mean. I get into the details of it. I love the details.
There's so much out there that you can learn about this, and there's, with technology, the way it's going and everything, I shouldn't say everyone, most people own a home or they rent a home, so they have to live somewhere, and these things are all very important, especially the roof. I mean, it's the main thing that covers you from top. So, I mean, if that roof isn't working right, you're going to have water on your head, and you don't want that, especially if you're married, because your wife's going to come and start yelling at you. So you better make sure your roof's not leaking at that point.
You almost sound like a man speaking from experience. Have you had a leaky roof?
No, we haven't had a leaky roof, but I know that if something goes wrong at the house, I better get on it and get it fixed right away, whether I do it myself or I find someone who can do it for us right away.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, you've always been in the industry for some time. Are there any notable success stories or certain experiences that you've had that you recall that you might want to share with us?
So with my old company, Mid-America, one of the things I took pride in was that if an employee left, it would be to pursue other opportunities, or I still help them pursue other opportunities. I always look at something as a failure, as if, let's say, if you were working with me and then if I'm not taking care of you or I'm not helping you achieve your goals, you just leave. And that's a failure because you just left because I wasn't doing a good job. Or if I have to fire you, that means I didn't train you right. I didn't do something right. But if we're working together and you come to me and say, hey, Mike, I want to go open my Hardie company, or hey, Mike, I want to become an appraiser. I want to go open a water mitigation company, which I've had several friends do in the past. We were able to help them achieve their goals. So I find that out as a win. As long as they're going to do something, let's say it's for themselves to be successful, I look at that as a win. Now, if they decide that they're going to leave me to go work for some other roofing company because we did something wrong, well, that's a failure on my part. So I need to self-assess what I did wrong so that we're better in the long run. And I do truly believe that helps you get better, because every time someone leaves your company, you need to assess, why did they leave? whether it's because we had to terminate them, whether it's because they left to go work for a competitor, go for their other goals, assess why they did it. And like I said, if you, and I have a couple notable situations, a guy, Kevin McCarthy, he's doing amazing things on the appraisal, adjusting site out in Illinois. This guy, Vito Missio, opened a high-end water mitigation company in Illinois. And Kevin, I started with in that 2008, we started knocking doors together. And then Vito came to me and basically told me up front, he's like, hey man, let me come work with you for like a year or two. Let me get this figured out and I'm going to go do my own thing. I'm like, hey man, let's do that. I'm going to help you achieve your goals. And they're doing amazing things. So, I mean, I look at that as I got to help them do what they want to do in life. So that's a win on my part.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I think I've worked for quite a few people over the years, and I can say that I haven't experienced what you're doing quite as much as what you're explaining. I think that's awesome.
And another thing too, I think, and I guess this is one chance to brag about myself, the relationships I built up at other companies too, like people after leaving the corporate situation, they still want to work with me and do things with me. So that must mean that I'm doing something right along the way. And I do truly believe it's because care about the customers and care about the employees. And if you do those two things, everything else is going to fall in line.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I think you show that really well, and I've had that experience with you. And that's why, I want to work with you and your team it's like, you've always been so nice to me and just, encouraging through every step of everything I try. So I really appreciate that.
I mean, I want to see everyone succeed. I mean, isn't that what this is all about? Because if you get better, then I get better because the industry gets better. I mean, one thing that I always valued, probably about 6-7 years ago, I really got into Gary Vee, and Gary Vee always talks about, giving all your content away, just give to others, and it's all going to come back to you. And I truly believe that happens in the universe. You just throw it out there, throw good things out there, and good things will come back to you. Throw shitty things out there, guess what's coming back to you? But we don't want to find out about that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's for sure. So you guys are wanting to get more into Hardie right now. How's that going? What's the drive that you have by wanting to get into more Hardie?
So one of the things that I look at, because with the storm restoration side, with aluminum siding, let's say if a job comes in, it's like 20 grand. And if Hardie job would be 30 grand, the customer for 10,000 more can do substantially better upgrades on their house at that point. I mean, we talked earlier today when you did a training that you maintain 80% of the value. So realistically, at that point, for $10,000, they're getting $24,000 of value into their home. And I think that's like a no-brainer for anyone to do that. I mean, vinyl siding, it's a product. I'm not going to knock it. I mean, it is, cost efficient and it's low maintenance. So it does what it says it's going to do.
Yeah.
Now you have your chance, though, to upgrade. And again, in that situation, in raw numbers, maybe I'm making them up, but if you can add $24,000 of value for $10,000, I mean, that's really helping your customer out. And if you make that customer happy, they're going to tell everyone else. I mean, and I do believe in the Hardie product. It's a good product. I mean, it's your biggest investment you're going to make most likely in your life. So why not take care of it? And it is a reflection of you. If your house looks amazing from the corner, the street view, people are going to come up to you, or your friends, family, when they come to your house, are just going to have a different impression of you.
Yeah, for sure. I agree 100%. It's just like, do you want to come home every day to a vinyl siding, or do you want to go every day to Hardie? And I think most people want the Hardie these days.
Absolutely. I mean, it's even like when you see houses that are brick. I mean, if you're going to go sell your house and you have a brick house over here and you have a vinyl siding house over here, which house, I mean, are you really going to want to look at? I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer, but it's all up to the eye of the beholder on that one.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. What do you think are some common misconceptions contractors get into when they start getting into Hardie? You guys are getting into it more. What were maybe some misconceptions that you had about it initially, or like maybe mistakes that you made that you're now like looking back on?
I think maybe one of the big mistakes is that people are going to say no because of the price. Building the value into it yeah, it seems like it's a no-brainer then because you're getting the value back. I mean, if you put $20,000 worth of vinyl siding on your house, if it was $200,000, it's still $200,000 and you're done. Put aluminum siding on your house, if it was $200,000, it's still $200,000. If you put, 20K's worth of Hardie on your house, now you're at 216. So, I mean, that's a huge difference. And I think it's more of believing in what it's doing for the customer too, like believing in that price point, because I feel like a lot of what happens in the roofing and siding industry, it's always a chase to the bottom. How can I be cheaper? How can I be cheaper? This guy's 12,000. Let me get to 11, and everyone just keeps undercutting each other, and that's not going to do you any good, because if they're going to keep cutting costs or keep doing things that get lower, what are they doing once they get on your roof, or what are they doing once they start putting on your siding? They're cutting corners. Every time you cut price, we're all paying about the same price for labor. We're all paying about the same price for materials. So for me to come down $1,000, either I'm not making any money, I'm not going to be in business, I'm not going to be able to warrant the product, or I'm cutting corners somewhere to not affect my profit margin for that $1,000. So you're giving something up at that point. But if you sell value and show why, because everything costs. If I do a more detailed job, if I'm more involved with the customer, you pay for those services. I mean, that's the more you give, the more you're going to pay. And most customers, I think, do want that. It's just a matter of, in your sales presentation, building that value so they understand, hey, I'm going to do A through Z where the other contractor may do A through C. So this is why I'm 30 and this is why I'm 20. Do you care about D through Z? And I think most people would say yes.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And I always had that issue when I first got into Hardie where it was like, are they really going to want to pay all this? And I think in the past that people would buy more on price when Hardie first started becoming popular because people didn't understand how difficult it is to install properly. And so then it's like you said, it's like if they're going to cut $1,000 out of their price or they're thousands of dollars cheaper, then it's like, well, where's that coming from? Because from my math, I'm the same as you. Like we're all buying the same materials at about the same price. We're all paying the labor about the same. But at the end of the day, how can I explain to this homeowner why they're paying more? What value are they getting? And the more we can do that, the more likely they are to purchase it. And I think that's what most homeowners want at the end of the day anyways, right? Is they want a durable house that looks good, that they don't have to do a whole lot to later. And, Hardie just fits that bill really well. Like you said, vinyl's better than doing nothing. But what happens when you can really add some value? I think the other thing that's happening right now in the market is people's homes are worth more money. I've seen like home values jump a whole bunch, and a lot of people have really low interest rates right now in the state of Indiana. So it's like they don't plan on going anywhere, which, for me, that's always been a target customer. Somebody that plans on staying in their home for 5 years or more. So I really do see it where it's like, yeah, I think people are willing to pay a little bit more now, especially when you can explain to them, hey, well, you'll get 80% of that back in your home value and your insurance company is already paying for some of it. It's like a no-brainer for these people. I think at that point it just comes to, can we build the trust with them, and I think that's, easy to do if you know how to do it right. What is something you think we need to see more of from roofers, from siding companies? What do we need to see more of out of contractors when it comes to roofing and siding?
Well, I think with the way the market's going right now with private equity getting involved with contractors, let's use like GF, for example, they're investing a lot in programs to help rise up the contractors. So the level of contractors, their ability, especially with technology, AI and everything, everyone's getting better and better on that. So, an example would be like 15 years ago, everyone wanted to waive deductibles. Now, I don't know if there's companies there, I'm sure there's still some out there, but it seems like the majority aren't waiving deductibles anymore. So the industry is getting better and better and better. And I really think that we have to be more collaborative and be willing to work with each other, because when I'm doing something right, if I can get others to do it right, it just pulls everything up. Because the reputation for roofers 20 years ago, checking the trucks and you couldn't trust a roofer for anything. So I do believe the industry has gotten a lot better. And I do believe it's because people have gotten into it and now we care about it. And we are trying to some varying degrees, help each other out. At least I think the companies that really want to grow and scale are working together to try to get better. And I mean, the smaller companies, they're going to be there, but what, they're thinking like, hey, what do I have to offer these guys? Why am I going to work with them? But I do feel like the industry itself, we've gotten better. I mean, you work with other contractors to help them grow their Hardie business. I mean, I'm in a lot of networking groups on the roofing side and the storm side. So, I mean, and we help each other out. And it's not always about, hey, let me do this for you and I'll charge you this amount of money. Hey, if I help you, you get better. And then maybe at some point I'll need you to help me so I get better. But it's still, at the end of the day, it only benefits the industry overall.
Yeah, that's for sure. I agree with you. I think, it's such a, I think in the past it's been such a man's industry. And so then it's like very masculine. And I think that we're seeing a lot more professionalism come into the industry. And, guys like you coming in and, being willing to say like, hey, I'll help you. I'm here to give you advice. I think you're 100% right. It helps everybody, and I think that's where I stand on it too is, I see it in my market, especially where it's like, it doesn't help me for these guys to struggle through putting up Hardie. I'm better off if they know how to do it. And I just share that information with them, and then it makes them have to sell it at the right amount when they know the right amount. But when guys are struggling and nobody wants to help each other, it doesn't seem like much of a community anymore.
I mean, it's probably easier for you to compete against two other contractors if everyone's within $1,000 of each other, as opposed to if you're 30, one guy's 22 and one guy's 18. It's probably because then it's all about salesmanship at that point when everyone's close to each other and likability, where when you're dealing with $18,000 guys and $22,000 guys, and then they pick the $18,000 or $22,000 guy and then they call you up, be like, oops, I picked the wrong guy. And now it makes everyone look bad in the Hardie industry. I mean, or any kind of contracting industry, because everyone's got horror stories of contractors.
That's right.
And when you go with the cheapest, and we talked about that earlier today in your training, one of the things they add in your sales pitch, hey, do you have any horror stories about contractors?
Yeah.
And what's the common denominator in that? Oh, they were the cheapest. So every time you pick the cheapest contractor, you seem to have problems. So this guy at $18,000, is he the guy you really want to go with? Have you not learned your lesson yet? Because if you haven't, well, then here you go. I'll call him for you so you can really learn your lesson.
Yeah, and I always feel so bad because that guy at 18 grand is usually the same guy that goes out of business within 2 years. He wasn't making any money. He goes out there, he undercuts the job. He finds a way to cut the project to where he thinks he can make money, even though he still probably doesn't. And then he goes out of business, and there's no way to even stand behind that work. And
he probably has no clue what his margin is at that $18,000 either. He's like, hey, I need money in the bank. Let me sell this job, and $18,000 will fund the next job. And he's not, they're not worrying about that. I mean, that was the old roofing mentality, though. The margins are so high that, hey, we'll just keep turning and burning, and sooner or later we'll have a lot of money in the bank. And who cares about profit margins? But with the advent of the CRMs and all the technology and everything, I mean, you should know your profit margins every single job you sell.
Absolutely. Before you even sell it, when you're quoting it, right? Absolutely. Yeah. There's one I can think about in particular that we quoted a couple of years ago for 60, and another contractor did it for like 40, 45. And now we're back re-quoting that job at 45, and we're not even doing a full replacement, but they hadn't, done such a poor job. And I feel so bad for the homeowner because, I mean, they already are $40,000 into this project, and they've got some major problems. And I know they're going back towards that contractor, but he's got no money, and there's just no recourse. And so I know what you mean. Well, besides pricing projects too low, what else do we need to see less of from contractors?
Well, like I said, chase to the bottom was one. I think, the professionalism, you've mentioned that, it's driving to a house. I mean, it's hard. Can't believe I'm saying this, but being groomed, at least, take a shower, stuff like that, just going up, having a clean vehicle. Professionalism's high. I mean, customer taking care of your customer. I mean, especially on the storm side of things, could they get their house approved without us? Possibly. Maybe. I mean, it depends. But at the end of the day, if you go there trying to help them and do the right thing, it's all going to work out. I mean, that's really what sales should be about. Be genuine, be honest, and help them out. I mean, that's where it goes. I mean, I do know there's still contractors out there that all they care about is making money, and there's some big ones out there that do that, and they do it well. I mean, so if that's their model and it works for them, great. I just feel like the way the industry is going, with all the money that's getting dumped into it by private equity and banks there, that we're going to have to get better because, I mean, I think there was a stat, there's like 200,000 licensed roofers in the United States, but like 100-some thousand of them are active. Now we've seen like with distribution suppliers, those numbers keep shrinking, and there's under 100 distribution options out there now. And I think the next 10 or 15 years, there's 100,000 roofers. I mean, that number is going to come down to 1,000, maybe less in the next 10 years. So really, it's going to be about that customer service, or maybe I'm wrong on that end because everything is going online. Maybe it's just going to be point and click, and I have a new. I just feel like servicing the customer will be what gets you the farthest. But you also have to embrace the technology too. You can still service the customer and embrace technology, because I'll go to roofing events and they'll talk about AI and technology and how no, stay away. And I'm thinking to myself, man, those are the guys keep coming back in the industry, because if we jump on the technology, the AI, I mean, the AI stuff's amazing. Chat GPT, like the stuff you can come up with. And I mean, it's minutes as opposed to hours on doing work and everything. I mean, there's just so many options of things you can do to make this industry better and more professional that we have to really just embrace it. I mean, someday, it probably won't be my lifetime, but we're going to have machines putting on siding, putting on roofs. I don't think it's going to come anytime soon. Maybe on the siding side, it'll be a little bit easier because it's on the ground, whereas getting a robot on the roof. I mean, I did have a dream one night about little drones flying on the roof and installing shingles and everything.
I'm with you on all these things. And, that's why people pay me to help them beat that learning curve. People pay me to be able to come in and say, hey, you don't have to go out here with Hardie and struggle through this, and this. I've got some tools to help you avoid all the pain of slowly having to learn, and allows you to learn a lot faster, And I think it's like what you're saying with the AI. It's like, I don't write an email without using AI anymore, whether it's Grammarly or putting it through Chat GPT. And you're 100% right. I mean, it's just like, where would we be without GPS? If I still had to follow written directions and use an atlas, I feel like it would take me forever to get places, and
it's funny you mentioned that, though. We talked to another guy on Tuesday about MapQuest.
Yeah.
Or when I got into the roofing industry, it was using map books. And if you went off the map page, and this may be before your time, if you went off the page, you may have to go 20 pages. You have to find the page and do all this. I mean, and another example too, like when I first got in the industry, you still had to hand measure roofs. Yeah. So I could still hand measure roofs, but could you imagine like when, let's say Eagle View, and I'll just use them as an example, when they first came into the sector and started doing the satellite imaging, how did these roofers take that? I mean, they probably did the same thing with AI, but look at how much easier it's made the industry with all the setups that you have for Hardie, for the ordering, materials and everything. I'm sure you're saving someone hours
and thousands of dollars in headaches, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's like one mistake can cost you so much money when you're dealing with Hardie. And it's like, why not just have somebody come in and walk you through it that's been doing it for years, that's already an Elite Preferred Contractor within the Contractor Alliance program. And, every year Hardie does this summit and they bring together the big contractors. And I think I've done it maybe 5 years now. And one of the best parts about what they do is we call it the breakout rooms, where they just put contractors together from different markets and they allow us to ask each other questions. They kind of lead the conversation. And, I think that's one of the most helpful things. And, as I'm getting into this, that's exactly what I'm trying to do for other contractors, is help them beat that learning curve. And, if you've already got a successful roofing company like what you guys are doing, there's no reason to not be changing a $20,000 job to a $30,000 job. And then you get a customer that's a lot happier. They'll also probably open up doors for more retail projects. And it just makes everybody's life better, you know? So,
I mean, especially with the insurance companies, the way they're changing with the policies and everything, we're still going to need to find ways to get repeat business. And if you make them happy now, there's always going to be opportunities. We're always going to create other verticals along the way, whether we bring in-house gutter crews, we're tackling commercial roofing. Like, so I may be the property manager of 600 properties and you do a great job on my house with the Hardie and everything. I may have you come in and start, taking all the roofs on my property that I manage. I mean, so there's so many endless opportunities, and we have to be able to provide outstanding service and outstanding products so that way people want to use us and we get those opportunities, because it is going to tighten up. I mean, the insurance game is not going to be here forever. You're already seeing the policies start going to ACV, and if you can't upsell that difference, if a roof's $20,000 and ACV value is only 10, you can't upsell that other $10,000, you're going to be dead in the water. So you have to figure out how to be able to do retail and how to get repeat business once you're done with that job.
yeah, absolutely. And, it was like, I guess I saw an article recently, like Progressive dropped 100,000 insureds in Florida. And it's just like, they've said it, like, this is going to happen. We can't continue to insure people in these areas. And I think for Texas, for years, Texas has been a mainly ACV policy area. They've got high deductibles that are, sometimes 2 or 3% of the home value. And it's like you said, it's like by the time they get paid out, they're maybe getting a few $1,000s on a $20,000 roof. And that roof still needs to be replaced, or they're going to end up with leaks, and, their house, which is worth maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars, is going to have all this interior damage, right?
Yeah. Well, the insurance companies did love this for years. I mean, before, I guess the storm chaser, storm catcher model really took off. I mean, you were paying premiums and never filing a claim on your home. And then when people started filing claims, 2% of our client base is filing claims, but we're going to raise our rates, significantly every year. So it's just getting to that point where it's starting to catch up now, where they made a lot of money off of all the claims for years, and now it's starting to like even out a little bit. It's catching up. So we're going to see some changes here in the next few years. I think once State Farm goes to some kind of ACV policies, everyone's going to follow suit, because they're the biggest company in the country. So as soon as they do it, everyone's going to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've heard about some pretty big increases from some insurance companies, 15, 20% on some of them. Have you heard similar increases to like homeowners?
I'm trying to think. I believe my first homeowner's policy at the house I live in, I want to say it was like $800 or $900, and I think we're at like $2,500 a year now. So over the course of 11 years, it's tripled. Wow. So it happens. And we've had, and it's all based on zip codes. So we've had, I think, 3 hailstorms since I've lived there. So that makes sense. That it would have tripled based on 3 hailstorms, because it's not necessarily that I file the claim every time. It's everyone else around me filing claims. So they got to raise rates to keep up, and it's getting to the point where, like I said, it's caught up. Now, if they pull everything back and just make them like the old school fire policies, no one's going to want to buy insurance policies. So they're going to have to keep something. So I do believe the ACV for the exterior of the home policies will stay around, because they still want to make that money. But if they have to pay out less along the way, it will benefit them. But we're going to have to learn to pivot as an industry and learn how to sell the retail. So when my guys are out right now, if they get 4 sides of siding for $20,000, they better get out there and try to push selling Hardie, because this might be the only shot. And that's part of the position you got to use with the customers. Hey, file the claim now while you still can get the whole house paid for, because there's exclusions on aluminum siding already. There's exclusions on vinyl siding that if they say if it's still functioning, that they won't pay for it, even if it's damaged. And there are arguments for that, but you may not get this shot again. So take advantage of it while you can.
Yeah. It's definitely getting tougher and tougher by the day, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So with that said, what advice would you give somebody new entering the construction industry right now?
I think going back like the 30 years when I was doing retail, I think it would be very beneficial to learn all the products and learn how to sell a full roofing system, sell a full siding system. So that way, when this thing changes, this pivot happens, these guys that can only sell a deductible, they're going to go out of business or they're going to lose their jobs. I would say it's really digging in and learning all the products and learning how to sell the products and why that if you have this, let's say, pot of gold right now from the insurance company, how to take that and best utilize it for the homeowner. So that way, if like I said, they give you $20,000 and you can do $30,000 and increase the value of their home, how to sell that to the client, because it really is for their best interest. I mean, because we could do a $20,000 vinyl siding job and we can make tons of money and move on to the next one. But did we really benefit that homeowner? Yeah, we put them in a better position they were in, at least on the materials on their home from after the storm. But are they really in the best position they could be in? And there's opportunity to put them in their best position. I mean, everything costs money, so it's not going to be free. I look at it as though you spend a little bit of money, but you're in a way better position. Why wouldn't you want to do that? And if you really believe it, and I think that's really one of the things that you have to have the mindset for. You have to believe what you're doing. And if you believe it and believe you're doing what's best for the client, it'll come through to them and they're more than likely going to consider it as an option. And if you show them the value, they're going to go with it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think learning to add value is maybe the most important thing you can do coming into this industry. And it's not always easy, especially when some of these companies bring people in and it's just like, yeah, all you got to do is sell the deductible, right? Mm-hmm. And like you said, it's easy to sell somebody $1,000 deductible, a couple grand, but when you're upgrading somebody for 5 figures or more, it takes a little bit of skill, right?
Absolutely. I mean, and that's why we push, because we're Master Elite with GAF, push the upsells for the silver and the gold pledge warranties. Why we want to push Hardie for the upsell opportunities, because it does put the homeowner in a better position.
Yeah, and I think it's like you said at the beginning, it's not that people really want the lowest price. I think statistically, it's only like 20% of homeowners or anybody buying a project want the lowest price. What they actually want most of the time is somebody they can trust, that's going to communicate well and deliver a quality project. And, I think when you can meet that, then they're a lot more likely to continue to use you on future projects, refer you to friends and family and coworkers, and, brag about you online, in social media and Google reviews and things like that.
Yeah. And when you mention it, I think one thing that contractors fear is the expert sale, because they feel like, at least on the storm side of things, if they teach the client too much, they may use it against them and try to think, oh, I can do this myself, I don't need you. It doesn't really work that way.
Yeah.
The expert sale is to prove to the client that I know what I'm talking about, so use me. And I look at it then as, if you don't use me and I prove to you I'm the expert and you want to use somebody else, well, you get what you pay for again. And it's not necessarily even on the storm side but the guy's the cheapest price. But if they don't know what they're doing, what are you going to get at the end? Because, if you want to just sell deductibles, but one guy knows what he's doing and one guy doesn't, even for that $1,000, prices being the same, apples on that price for something, what are you getting for the guy who doesn't know anything compared to the guy who does know everything? And, it's a confidence factor too. If you just get in the industry, you're going to be scared to tell clients, what you know. But I've been in the industry 15 years. You've been in the industry for a while. You don't fear, because, if you give the customer all the information they need and they decided to go with somebody else, maybe they weren't the customer for you anyway. So,
that's right.
You win when you lose sometimes. And this is one of those cases where you're winning and you lost the customer, but you still won, because who knows what that would have brought it at the end. Because, really, when you're selling the customer, they're choosing you, but you should be choosing them as well. Because if you just take everyone, you're going to have those nightmare customers. So there should be some give and take with picking the customer as well as them picking you.
Oh, yeah. I was so guilty of that early on, especially when I got into selling Hardie. It was like, I just wanted to sell more jobs. And because of that mindset alone, it was just like, yeah, I don't want to give them all the information because they may go to somebody else and then I'm going to undercut the other guy's price. And then it's like, before I know it, I'm not making any money on these jobs. And, and it was like, why am I even wasting my time doing that? And then I learned as I asked for more money that if I could add the value, then they would pay me more money. And I kind of look back now and wonder how many of those low ticket jobs that I sold could I have just sold for a higher amount? And I can definitely attest to some of those jobs that I sold at this low amount. And they really weren't somebody I wanted to be working with anyways. They were rude or they weren't appreciative of our quality when we were providing high quality. They would complain about anything. And so I definitely have found that I don't want to be competing on cost with anybody because I will end up with customers that I don't really want, especially if they can't see the value. How are they going to appreciate my work later? And
it's funny you say it because I'm sure you had customers too, like let's say it was even a big ticket item and they didn't ask any questions in the beginning. Those are the ones you got to fear the most. I mean, you're better off doing your whole sales process, even if they don't ask questions. I mean, on the sales program you have for Hardie, I would even say just even with the questions for the customers, just have it on a clipboard and fill out each one in front of them because they're seeing that you care, that you're taking notes, you're being very detail oriented. And then when you get to the end and you went over, you pretty much brought up every objection. So when you start building, things will go smoother. But if they're just, nodding your head, those are the worst customers. Go, yep. And then they're just ready to cut you a check. Take your time. I mean, and make it simple and show them that you care. And I'm going to take all the notes. And because if they see you taking notes about them, they're probably in their mind thinking, wow, look at all the details he's taking now. What's that going to be like on the back end when they build my job?
Yeah, absolutely. And especially when you go for taking the notes when you walk around with them, and then you're putting those detailed notes into your estimate, and then they not only saw you do it and appreciated that they felt like you were understanding them then, but then later that you follow back up with that information, it's like, holy cow, this may actually get done when the contractor comes here, right? Because reverts back to what we talked about earlier, is that everybody's biggest fear is that bad contractor job. And so it's like, what can we do to show them that we're not going to let that happen to them? And we're going to make sure that we care and we show them that we're not just listening to respond, right? Which is what most contractors that don't take notes are doing. They're just listening to be like, okay, what can I say to get this person to buy? Versus, hey, I want to listen. I want to understand. Do you mind if I take a few notes here while you're talking, right? Certainly, I agree. It just lets them know, like, you care and you're going to be there for them. And I think that, I think a lot of contractors would find that the response I get from homeowners is, the other guys weren't doing this. They didn't have a list of questions, right? They didn't even take notes, right? It's just the more we can show them like the reality of what they can expect, the better off we are, more likely to get the sale.
And you're taking the notes to help them and protect them too, as opposed to help and protect yourself as well. I mean, so it goes both ways. It benefits them and it benefits you.
Yeah, because it's like you said, that customer that doesn't ask any questions. If you're not asking good enough questions as the contractor, they may be thinking they're getting a different project and you're quoting them. So it's like sometimes the most important thing when I'm selling people is, what are you not getting, right? And making sure they clearly understand, okay, so you don't want to do your soffits and fascias. What's a soffit and fascia?
Yeah.
Right? And it's like they wouldn't have said anything. And I could sell them a job with no soffits and fascias. I've done this before. And then they go, well, I thought I was getting my soffits and fascias done. They don't necessarily use those words. Like, this part's not done here. Oh, well, yeah, that's not part of what you asked for. You asked for new siding, right? But if I ask those follow-up questions, then I can get down to the details. Well, generally, I think you've given us a ton of great advice. What would be your message to the audience of contractors out here? What do you think's your message to them?
So the big thing I believe is, number one, take care of your client. I'm not saying to give away jobs, but provide good customer service. And I think it's more than just contractors. I think customer service is kind of a thing that's just went away. Like, you go to restaurants, you go to stores to buy anything. I mean, no one really cares anymore. And hopefully people aren't getting conditioned to accept that. I mean, so it's almost like when you say nice things, like sometimes you walk up and down the street, I'll just randomly say hi to people and they'll look at me like I'm crazy. Yeah, I mean, because they're conditioned for you not to say hi or not to look at them or anything. So really come out there, be happy, joke with them. I mean, because they're going to buy from you more times than not if they like you. Make sure you're the expert in what you're selling. Educate them. Don't be afraid to educate them, because the more they know through the process, the better customer they're going to be for you too. So you don't want them to just say, oh, well, you didn't tell me this. Well, here, I did tell you this. I like on your little sheets, hey, here, fill this out, sign this here. I did tell you this. I mean, we have some roofing checklists like that too, so they can't say we didn't tell you. So yeah. So it's really, again, customer. I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, it's all customer service. And then if you're going to be the owner, the CEO, president of a company, really think of your employees as your customers too, and really take care of them, because without them, you can't grow your business. So, I mean, you really have to look out for them, take care of them. And whatever that checklist is for your customer that you're selling that Hardie job to, you should have a same checklist for your employees and make sure that you're taking care of them on that same level, because they're a customer. They don't need to work for you. I mean, and it's today's job market, it's hard to find people. And we could sit here and complain and say, oh, I just can't find anyone to work. Or you could, self-assess, what do I need to do so I can bring in people that want to work here? Google figured it out. I mean, it's a hard economy to find people to want to work, but somehow Google gets people applying like crazy every day, and they don't have a problem with it. So they figured it out. So, we've got to figure it out too. And I mean, and on the smaller scale, it should be easier. I mean, if you have 20 employees, you can touch all 20 people. How is Google touching tens of thousands of people every day? So
every day. Yeah. Too, yeah.
Oh, I mean, it should be easier for us to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you on that. We can't do enough for our employees. It's like what they do for us is everything, Is there anything you'd like to promote? Romans Roofing, obviously, platform's yours.
Sure.
You like to brag on here.
So Romans Roofing, again, we've been talking about this, that we really do care about the customer. We do offer better warranties than everybody else, Master Elite, top 2% of roofing contractors in the country. So we can offer you premium warranties using Hardie as opposed to going back with vinyl or aluminum siding on your house. So it gives you a better product. It gives you more value in your home. So these little things that we do, it's because we care about our customer and we really want to give them a good experience. So they tell their neighbor, they tell their friend, their family about the experience we gave them. So we can keep giving that experience to others and then do the same thing for our employees. I mean, I've been in situations where companies don't take care of their employees and what happens? They don't do so well. Now, if you take care of your employees, I mean, you could probably look at a company's P&L, and if you see the revenue going up every year, yes, systems and processes do matter, but you're probably taking care of your employees, because if the numbers are going up, your employees are happy. If the numbers are going down, yeah, you probably have bad systems and processes, but you're also probably doing something wrong with your people, and you just got to take care of them. So, I mean, it's, like I said, it really comes down to taking care of the customer, which whether it be the homeowner buying your roof or siding or your employee that's deciding that they're going to come and work for you. And I mean, again, you can look at a P&L and see if your employees are happy or not.
Yeah, that's for sure. I can attest to that. When your customer or when your employees aren't happy, I mean, I think you see it in the results we get with our customers, and the customers are usually the first person to let me know in my company, like, hey, I don't feel like I got what I was promised, right? And a lot of times I think I look back and it's like, well, was I really giving my employees the tools that they needed to be successful then, right? And I think that's where a lot of the stuff that we train, I train with you guys on today is, that's all stuff I learned real world, kind of getting out there and figuring it out. And I think that's the biggest thing you can do is empower your employees with the tools that they need. You can't expect your employees to go out there and do a job for you if they don't have the proper tools, right?
Absolutely. I mean, there's no bad employees. There's bad systems and processes. And one of the things I've been doing a lot of reading over the last year, that there's always human error, right? Something is going, we're all going to screw something. I screw things up. You screw things up. We all screw things up. So if you put a good system and process in place where you get away from as much human error as possible, your employee is going to be happier because they're not stressed, because they're not worrying about screwing things up. I mean, I always like to think of our business like Henry Ford had the assembly line. He was like the first one who created with the automobile and everything.
Yeah.
Let's assembly line this process. It helps you scale, but it also puts your employees in the role where they can be most successful, because when they're most successful, they're going to be happy, they're going to produce more. So you put them in roles where they can succeed. I mean, if you give them a job and they have to, if there's 5 roles they have to do and 2 of them they don't like, they're not good at, is that going to be a happy employee? But if there's 5 roles and you break it into 5 separate parts, and this guy is an A+ performer in one of those roles, get him in that role, and what's going to happen? He's going to thrive. He's going to do well, and they're going to be very happy and perform that way. So, I mean, it is very important to take care of. I mean, I keep stressing about taking care of employees, but you got to find that right home for them, and it'll skyrocket. I mean, if you look at, again, I'll go back to the numbers. If numbers are going down year over year, you're not doing something right with your people.
Yeah, especially if the people are leaving too, right?
Yeah, it's not a positive environment. So, I mean, and again, talking about the systems and processes, putting it in place so they can succeed, you will see that spike go up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can't agree more with you. Well, Mike, I really appreciate you taking the time to meet with me, sit down and talk. It's been a great day for me to spend the time with your team, get to know your team a little better. And, I look forward to working with you guys in the future and continue to support you in any way I can.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great having you here. And I do feel better knowing that, I mean, we've had this goal of wanting to succeed with Hardie, and we've struggled up and down with it. But I do believe, after having the guys sit through the training and everything, I mean, they want it, and now we're giving them the tools to make it happen. So I think it is really going to help them take off. So I'm looking forward to it, and I would highly recommend your program to anyone who asks. So make sure anyone who asks, you can have them give me a call. And
I appreciate it.
And I'll highly recommend it for you. It's great stuff, because it is overwhelming in the beginning, because all you're seeing is this big dollar amount, and what do I got to do to build all the value to get that big dollar amount, and you simplify it and make it easy. I mean, it is great. So
good. Well, I'm glad you saw value in it. It is. It's definitely something I put together over the years. It's what I use in my own business, and my goal now is to just help other contractors reach financial freedom. And the more that I can do that, the more I'm going to be happy in life, because to me, it's not all about money. Make millions of dollars and still be miserable. To me, it's about helping other people. And what I've found is when I can help other people be successful, then, I feel a lot better about how things are going for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the investments we make now pay off in the long run. So, I mean, it's peanuts compared to how much you can make in the long run. Because once you learn it, it's like riding a bike. You just keep pedaling and you keep going, and you get better and better, and it just keeps growing. So yeah, I look forward to seeing your growth too. And hopefully, next year at this time, we're looking at buying a building down the street, and we're building out a second floor wide open for events and everything. Going to create a little podcast area too. So hopefully have you back and either do your show here with us, or we do our show with you over there. So it'll be good, man. It's exciting times in this industry.
Yeah, and I'm here to support you guys from now until then, and whatever I can do to help you, I'm definitely here. And like I said from the beginning, I just want to see you guys be successful, and whatever you need from me, that's what I'm here to provide.
Awesome, we appreciate it. Thanks.
Cool, man.
Cool.
Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. Yeah.
Sweet.